So guys, before I get to the topic, I'm going to use this as a storytelling session. And when Pari was presenting, I was a little bit squirmish in my chair. In that next session, when Daniel was presenting, I was at the end of it. I don't know about how many of you, but I am partly depressed. So I will try and get back to a few things. So let's see. So Daniel, we are up in life in globe. We are a small part of the global ecosystem. We are a small part of the jigsaw puzzle that this world is. So if you look at it, the CEOs today of HARMAN International, a gentleman called Dinesh Paliwal, came from India. The CEO of Microsoft, Satya Nadella, came from India. The CEO of Google came from India. The CEO of MasterCard, Adobe, I could go on and on and on. So there's something good about our country. So it's not this country, it is our country. So our country has produced some of the best talent. This best talent has dispersed globally. It is making a difference. Look at Microsoft in the last 3 years. It's a changed Microsoft. It's a Microsoft that went from maybe a share price of less than $30 to more than $100. Look at their market cap. Look at our Microsoft colleagues right here in this room in India, how they are taking things forward. Look at what Adobe does out of India, end-to-end products. They are not a body shop. They don't do $18 or $31.60. They do products. Look at HARMAN International. We, as a company globally, have roughly about 18 centers of competence. And I say globally because we are a global company. We are not an Indian company. We are not a German company. We are not an American company. If you look at what we do out of India, we have 7 centers of competence, 8 in the works. These are centers of competence producing global platforms. If a Volkswagen of this world, a BMW of this world needs a certain technology, it will come from one of these centers globally. That's what we do for a living. That's what has been done for the last many years. Do I accept that 100% of us are doing it? No. Even within our own companies, within HARMAN, we could do better. But please rest assured, we are not a sweatshop. India is not a sweatshop. And I'm pretty sure a lot of us in the audience are working hard towards it. Can we do better? As human beings, as intellectual people, we can always do better. And trust me, we'll do better. You have 13,000 headcount in India. I'm pretty sure they'll deliver impeccably for you. They will become far more productive than you thought. And I'm pretty sure they are good companies that you acquired. So having said that, let me delve into who we are a little bit more before we get into the storytelling of what we are doing, which is not sweatshop work from India, which are products developed, delivered globally from India, using ecosystems, whether they are in China and so on. As a company, China is one of the biggest markets for us. So we don't look at China as a competition. It is a competition. Sometimes we compete, sometimes we cooperate, and so on. So who are we? As HARMAN, we are basically a 100% owned subsidiary of Samsung Electronics. We are a connected technologies company, and I'll come to what it means. But a little bit about our parent. A bunch of our team members from Samsung would also be there in the room. Samsung is one of the largest R&D spenders in the world. Now, and I'll explain in the next few slides why it's important and what it means. You talk about patents. Yes, the patent numbers from India may not be the highest, but Samsung India, HARMAN India contributes to a number of patents, and Samsung holds number of patents globally, maybe number 1 patent holder in the US. From a chip manufacturing side of the house, a lot of you may not know, but Samsung today is the largest chip manufacturer. Not only are we leaders in consumer electronics, but in semiconductor industry, we are the leaders. We are the largest smartphone manufacturers in the world. And if you look at the brand value, Samsung today is the number 7 brand from a value perspective globally. From a HARMAN perspective, the company that I represent as a subsidiary of Samsung, we are a connected technology company. We work in 4 different segments. Connected car. If any of you drives right from a BMW to an Audi, Mercedes-Benz to a Tata Motors, and I can't name, but one of the largest automotive OEMs, you're using our products right in, day out. What do we do in a connected car? We do the infotainment platforms, we do the telematics, and we do a far more number of things. Forward-looking, we are working on to cybersecurity. We have our own over-the-air updates, which are used by pretty much everyone in the automotive industry today. And these are products, these are not services from a connected car perspective. From a lifestyle audio perspective, if you look at your own home, if you're using a device from a Google or using a JBL Bluetooth speaker powered by Google or an Amazon Alexa equivalent and so on and so forth, that's what lifestyle audio does. It plays a decent role in everyone's life today. From a connected services perspective, we are the glue that powers all the things, including our fourth division, which is professional solutions. And yes, this microphone is not Harman. Had it been Harman, you would not have had that problem. And that is developed in India, by the way. So that is the fourth division, which is the professional solutions. And what do we do? How do we touch your lives every day? By the way, a little known fact, 187 million subscribers, Pari, you talked about, powered by Samsung networks in partnership with Reliance. So that's the largest scaling of a telecom network anywhere globally. If a Verizon, Sprint, AT&T wants to learn how to scale a network, they come and meet Reliance, they come and meet Samsung on the historic, 187 million over the last 2.5 years. A lot of that work done by Samsung folks here in Bangalore, by the way. If you look at the headphones that come with the Samsung phones that you buy, those are AKG, which is a Samsung/Harman brand. Now, if you go to the Bangalore airport and you're looking at the audio video lighting, guess what? You're using Harman products. We are basically behind powering the Bangalore airport. For that matter, Sao Paulo airport, Shanghai airport, White House in the US, and so on and so forth. If you drive a Tata Motors car or one of the leading cars, some names are under NDAs, I can't name them, but right here in India, we are providing the infotainment systems, made in India, for India, exported globally as innovation, because India, if you can meet the cost in India, you can meet the cost anywhere in the world, not the other way around. Now, look at the fleet management system. So one of the biggest things that one of the largest telcos in India is doing today is doing fleet management, and I'll give you an example as we go along. Developed in India, being taken globally to the leading telcos globally. And if you attended the 2018 Republic Day celebrations, the professional solution side of the house in Harman was behind the audio video lighting there. So that's what we do as a living, and we touch your lives on a daily basis. So now let me take an example of how some of the leading technologies have been developed by us and our partners globally using centers of competence in India and spread across the globe. So if you look at a movie, a Steven Spielberg movie, this is basically a movie called Minority Report. It was made in 2002, right after 9/11, etc. happened. This basically talks about a scenario in 2054, how the people before they commit crimes can be caught and crimes can be avoided. And I'll give you the relevance of that and how things have moved in the last 15, 16 years.
Destination office.
Lamar, they found me.
So this is something called an autonomous car. So the guy was sitting in the car was driving itself, moving in, moving out, and so on and so forth. And guess what? We released a version of this along with our partners, Rinspeed, and many other companies, including NXP and others. This is a prototype of an autonomous car that we released in 2017. Let's look at
See if I
next.
can capture that.
Running out of time. I was thinking maybe I'd play hooky, stay home today.
Working too much tomorrow.
Can you grab that? So clear.
So this is something called gesture recognition, gesture control. You can wave your hand, you can make things happen. That's what the guy was doing. Guess what? We released a BMW 7 Series along with BMW and our partners, where you can control when a call comes in, you want to take the call, great. You don't want to take the call, go away, right? And like that, many other systems in the car, and all this is in production for the last couple of years. So what we talked about future is reality. Let's see another example.
Good evening.
You can move the old-fashioned
John Century 21 stands provides gourmet cuisine.
John Anderson. You can use a Guinness right about now.
Stress out, John Anderson.
Escape from it all, Harrison. Get away, John Anderton.
So this movie talks about as the guy was walking, Tom Cruise. So he's being watched. The cameras look at his iris, look at his face, do the facial recognition, iris recognition, are able to relate it to a reference data somewhere in the background, talk about what he likes, what credit card he uses, and so on and so forth. So I'm pretty sure you've used Samsung phones, iris recognition, face recognition, and so on and so forth. So now let's see how we are putting that in real life in our technologies developed across the globe, including India. Now, that's where, if you look at it, this is a concept car from Maserati, which is going into production. So it's not yet start of production, should be going sometime now. This shows you a few technologies, some of which are in production today, some of which will be rolled out as we go along. So right from 5G connectivity in the car to having facial recognition, people recognition. Why is it important? It right from knowing who the owner of the car is, plus as the cars become more ride share and so on and so forth, the cars can personalize. If they recognize you, they can change their settings to your preferences, to having multi-AI. So you just have a switch. You want to go from Bixby to Alexa to something else, it's just a switch. And you want to put it in a general mode, depending on you say, hey Siri versus hey Bixby or whatever else, it picks up the AI engine, and a bunch of this innovation is done across the various centers. And here is where we are also bringing the power of the bigger Samsung family, where we have different displays from Samsung coming into the car, and all of this is built on Android controlling 4 clusters and so on. So right from Google to IBM to many other technologies from our partners come into this. So that's the power of the ecosystem that we talk about. And now I'll give you a few other examples where all these connections that we are talking about, they're going to be ubiquitous. You go anywhere, they're going to play a very important role in how you deliver services to your customers, or as a customer consume services wherever you go. So now we talked about sci-fi, we talked about next generation technologies for the cars. What about the non-smart cars? We are an emerging economy right here in India. There are so many cars on the road which don't have the telematics built in, those fancy displays and so on and so forth. So we have developed for India, and it is getting launched with one of the largest telecom operator, a fleet management system which does many things, uses a OBD dongle, goes into a Maruti 800 if you want that to be, makes it a smart car, connects over 3G, 4G, whatever, delivers various different services, whether it's fleet management, whether it is usage-based insurance for the insurance companies, whether it is, you have a teenager, you want to geofence, you want to understand where the teenager is going. Those are the things that we're doing here, and then we are taking it to the global markets. All made in India for global markets. Now, when we come to the next generation technologies, between Samsung and HARMAN, we are doing vehicle to everything. So when you talk about, when you saw that movie, if a vehicle has to talk to the entire infrastructure, and as cities become smart cities, this is what would be required, right from 5G telematics to having the software platforms and to having many different services ride on it. And all this is not future 10 years or 15 years from now. All this is work in progress between our companies and our global development centers. Now, as a consumer, if any of you have been to a cruise line, you would know that on a cruise line, there will be 2,000 to 3,000 people who will all of a sudden land up. Now, they will land up, they will want to know where to go, what activities their kids should go to, what restaurants to go to, how to go to, and so on and so forth. And if we use the technologies today, not in a sweatshop manner, but as an end product deliverable to a consumer company, like a cruise line, that's what we are doing today. So you could be landing up on a cruise, you could have a holographic person standing there, you could be talking to the person, asking questions, you could be going to your own cabin, having a smart device sitting there, not powered by NLP or a digital assistant like an Alexa or a Google, because there's no cloud connectivity or it's too expensive. So it's a server-based, open source, customized, very context sensitive about that cruise line with machine learning built in, so that when people are asking questions, 7 different languages, over a period of time becomes far more intelligent, far more personable. This is right now going into production in the next 2 quarters. And this is where India plays a big role. Overall, technology plays a big role. And this also has an AR integration. So for example, you want to see a reservation for a Chinese restaurant, you talk to the device there in your room, make a reservation, set up a reminder, you are in an activity, comes onto your phone, you look at that, say navigate, it's an AR thing, you look at your phone, you're walking with it, and it takes you where you want to go. So it's an amalgamation of next generation technologies, all in production today. I could go on, but this is another aspect for economies like India and many other countries where we have an aging population, where people like me who have migrated out, not for better opportunities, but for various other reasons as well, and where parents are here, you can put a simple system in the house which could have sensors, and all these are technologies from Samsung, HARMAN, and our partners. So you could have SmartThings sensors in different places. There could be arrival sensors and so on. There could be machine learning in the backend. And so essentially what you're doing is you're collecting data about your elderly's habits. So if my dad didn't go out at 6 a.m. that he used to go every day, a trigger will come to me saying, Dad didn't go out today. Maybe time to call, find out what's going on. This is a healthcare example of using the connections that we make from an IoT, artificial intelligence, machine learning, and so on. Finally, network to consumer. So a lot of people in different countries don't have good signals in different cities, like even Bangalore. So if you wanted a good signal at your home, you could put a small femto cell in technological terms, a small cell. Now, how do you make it even more intelligent? How do you make it more personal? How do you make it more functional, and so on and so forth? You want to talk to it, you want to have music played, you don't want to have multiple devices like a digital assistant on something else, and that's what we are doing. This is the industry first smart cell with Alexa integration. You could use, instead of Alexa, you could use anything else. With HARMAN Kardon speakers, HARMAN Kardon 7 array microphone, and so on and so forth, and over-the-air updates, all of which are products from HARMAN and Samsung Stable. And all of this is developed in a facility in Gurgaon, shipped from China. So it's a collaboration between India, China, the customer being in the US, and we could do it everywhere. Now, so how do we take these infinite possibilities? What is our X factor? How do we look at the X factor? What have we done? And we have been at it for the last many years. I'm pretty sure many of you in the audience, as the GIC leaders or otherwise, are on that journey. And if you're not, I'm sure this is something that you intend to be on. How do we bring it all together? What's our X factor bringing all this magic together? On one side, we have simplified the technology side of the house. Yes, HARMAN Connected Services as a part of HARMAN and Samsung is a services company, but more and more we are building technology building blocks. We use them as building blocks, not just sweatshop services, but essentially building blocks that can come together for different use cases. We use partners right from our parent Samsung Electronics to Samsung Data Systems to many other parts of Samsung to get advanced technology. We look at HARMAN assets, and we look at assets from our partners, many of whom are in the room, whether it is Microsoft, Google, IBM, EMC, VMware, many of you. And we bring it together, and a lot of that collaboration happens globally. Finally, there has to be a culture, there has to be a mindset. That's driven right from our top. Our CEO is on the record saying India, innovation, global, and all that. So we invest in our people, and we mean it. It's not just for the sake of saying it. We train our people on latest technologies. We do it in a way that we are putting the centers of competence here. So it's not just about training, it's about giving them ownership. Those centers of competence own those platforms globally. We innovate for emerging markets, and as I said before, if you can innovate for emerging markets, what you can sell in India can be sold anywhere for a huge profit. That's the second part of it. And finally, we build locally, we take it global, and there are many technologies we get from global into the local. So with that, I will stop. Hopefully, many of you share my view, and will take the Indian X factor much higher. Thank you.